Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your new Bonheur Private Wines video. Today we're talking wine tasting, explaining an interesting concept about our senses, and more specifically, how we smell. This will allow you to taste wine better, to smell the wine better, and eventually, more importantly, to enjoy your wines better, which is always the ultimate goal, isn't it? Let's get into it and you'll understand what I mean. Today we're looking at why wine aromas smell different when you're sniffing from the very top of the glass versus sniffing it from a little farther away. This was an interesting question asked by Mike, one of our club members. Remember that you can send us your wine questions and I'll do my best to answer them in our Q&A videos. Let's go. My fellow wine-loving friends, Julian here. Before we get started with the video, there is something that you have to know about. This video was made possible by the Bonheur Private Wine Partnership, and the reason I work with them is not just because it's been called the most unique wine club in America, but because they truly love the wines that they choose for you. Founded by Will Bonheur, the partnership is a small group of wine lovers who have come together to import excellent small batch wines that might otherwise get completely overlooked by large importers. They get them. Right now you can get your hands on 3 rare extreme altitude red wines from Argentina, from some of the purest, highest vineyards in the entire world, way up in the Andes Mountains. No middlemen, no additive packed supermarket wines here, no inflated cost. Plus you'll get exclusive access to more wine education videos from me, just like the one you're about to watch, to make sure you become an educated wine connoisseur. So make sure to check out the link in the video description to see if you want to become partner in something truly special in the world of wine. But for now, back to your video. So first, let's understand what we're talking about here. Some of you may not have experienced this yet. Next time you have a glass of wine in front of you, or if you have one now, even better, just pause the video a little to try this. You'll need a proper wine tasting glass to do this, not necessarily a big one like this, but a tasting glass with a relatively narrow opening and a solid base. You smell your wine first from, say, a couple of inches away. You put your nose, say, around here. You can swirl the wine as well just to evaporate the aromas a little bit better, and take a good sniff and a second to think about what you are smelling. Now, you do the same thing, but stick your nose right into the glass and take a similar deep, good sniff. You'll notice that the wine smells stronger, of course, when you're closer, but you'll probably notice that it's not just a difference in the aroma intensity. It's not just that you smell the same things, but stronger. It's generally that it clearly does not smell the same. What you smell in each case will depend on the wine that you're dealing with. Every wine is different, but you should notice that from afar you smell some aromas and not others. You often smell the smoky aromas from afar, the oaky aromas as well, the vanilla, the caramel, sometimes the spices, the herbal characters. Yeah, I can definitely smell a bit of pepper and herbal characters here. When you smell from the inside of the glass though, yeah, is really when the wine reveals itself. Everything appears way more obvious. The fruity elements, the tropical fruits, if you're talking about a white wine, definitely some tropical fruits here. The berries will just come way stronger when you're closer. The forest floor, the earthy characters that are more subtle come obvious when you sniff inside the glass. The other aromas, the smoke, the oak, the spices are still there, but more on the background when you smell from close enough, and the fruits are dominant, while when you're far away, you only smell the smoke and maybe the fruits are a little bit on the background. So a completely different perspective on the wine. Interesting, isn't it? Let's explain why this is. To understand this is fairly simple, really, but we need to understand biology a little bit. An aroma is a perception of molecules. You have captors, sensors in your nose that can essentially smell molecules floating around in the air. Every molecule is perceived differently depending on its concentration. All aromas have a perception concentration threshold, meaning under a certain concentration you can't smell them. That's because your sensors in your nose are only triggered to send a signal to your brain when they can interact with enough of these molecules in the air to generate an electric current in your sensory neurons and send those to the brain to analyze. Also, most molecules smell different at a low concentration than they do at high concentration. For example, have you ever noticed that a smelly cheese may really smell like something you don't want to smell from afar? If you've left a camembert in your car or in a corner of a room, it can smell really bad and you sometimes think there might be a dead mouse hidden somewhere. But you realize it actually only smells like cheese, it's only cheese. Once you get closer to the actual cheese and realize it actually doesn't smell that bad. And even more obviously when you get to eat the camembert, given you like this type of cheese, it actually smells and tastes good, like cheese, not like a dead mouse at all. And that's because certain molecules, especially the sulfuric compounds that remind us of rotting things like rotten egg or dead animals, can be perceived at a very, very low concentration, so you only smell those when the cheese is far away in a corner of the room. But the creamy flavors, the floral aromas, the herbal scents of a cheese that exist in a cheese, well, those need a much higher concentration to be perceived, and that only happens when you're about to eat the cheese or actually eating it. That's what happens. And I hope this makes sense. Well, I am French, so I've had this type of experience with smelly cheeses, but I hope you can find an example in your own experiences, in your own life, of something that smells very different from afar than from close by. I guess you could also compare this when someone's baking a cake in the kitchen. You only smell the butter and the caramelly scents that smell delicious from afar, but you cannot really necessarily pick up what the cake is going to be made of. You can't really pick the chocolate, the lemon, the pumpkin or whatever. This you can only smell when you actually close by and smelling the cake. Well, same applies to wine aromas. From a distance, essentially, you only smell the molecules that we are the most sensitive to, and those are not necessarily the most enjoyable ones. A lot of this is because from an evolutionary standpoint, our ancestors needed to smell certain things from a distance. Smell the smoke that can evoke danger or be a good thing if you're actually chasing fire for survival and you're a caveman. All the sulfuric compounds as well, the rotting things, we smell strongly too because they can be a signal for poisonous and dangerous things in nature. The vinegary compounds too, we smell very strong because they indicate that a fruit might be off. For example, we smell those really well at very low concentration, like a dog would smell a rabbit from 100 feet away. All these compounds, the smoke, the sulfur, the vinegar, exist in a wine, and you smell them more from afar. When you smell from close by though, those kind of tend to disappear because you got all of the other strongly concentrated flavors and aromas that come to life. That's what they do. You get to smell the complete aroma spectrum of a wine then, because you can smell the food, the earth, the spices, etc. because these molecules then hit the aroma concentration threshold that is necessary to trigger your senses and for your brain to be able to process these nervous signals and understand why those aromas smell like they do and what they are, what they correspond to: the strawberry, the raspberry, the lemon, the orange blossom, you name them yourself. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, to conclude, I'll say that this is exactly why also us wine professionals or experienced wine connoisseurs, we often smell a wine from a little distance first, and without agitating the wine. Then we'll smell it from a little bit closer, then we'll swirl and agitate the glass to evaporate more aromas, and smell it from a distance, and swirl it again, and smell it from the inside. And that's because when you agitate the wine, when you smell it from a distance or from closer, that's because every step of this process gets you different types of aromas that become dominant, because some evaporate faster than others, some are perceived more from afar than from closer. So this is a very good way to identify a greater variety of components in a wine. Smell it at different angles, different distances, swirl hard versus not swirling hard, and every time you change a little bit the angle or in the distance, well, you may smell different things and different components in a wine. Yes, this is another little secret from a wine professional to you, but now you know. A little secret about wine tasting and how you can analyze and get different components and understand a bit better how your wine works. And now you know. On this final note, I'll leave it here for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Cheers.